Welcome to the latest episode of The Place Inside, the place where all true work is accomplished. What if you went outside one morning and found that 95% of the people in the world were drunk? I'm not talking about a few beers. I'm talking about being really smashed. Well, this is not a thought experiment. It's reality. We're going to explore the place called the unconscious, which makes up over 95%. Did you get that? 95% of our consciousness awareness. We have two parts to our consciousness. The everyday waking consciousness that we think of as ourselves, and that only amounts to about 5% of our awareness. When we think, who am I, we're using that 5% of our awareness. Then we have a second part of our consciousness called the unconscious, which amounts to about 95% of our awareness. Back in the day, New Thought experts would say, we only use 10% of our brains. And that was something that everybody was talking about. And they said Einstein used 15%. And can you imagine if we increase that up to 20%? Then the neurobiologists came along, and as scientists love to rain on people's parades, they told us that the human brain cannot be divided up in such a fashion, and we all use 100% of our brains. Well, their rainstorm lasted for a couple of decades, until recently, those people who make it their lifestyle to study and explore the unconscious, namely psychologists, psychiatrists, hypnotists, and those exploring such fields as neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, reframe that old chestnut about us only using 10% of our brains. For they said, yes, indeed, our entire brain is functioning. We are just completely unaware of what 95% of it is doing. Can you imagine that? And it is the truth. Neurobiologists are proving it through doing CAT scans, MRIs. We are a bunch of zombies walking around believing we are aware of what is going on around us, believing we are aware of the conversations we're having, aware of what we think and feel about all the various people and events in our world. Well, when you think about it, a bunch of people walking around using only about 5% of their minds is like all of humanity is walking around drunk or high on some heavy drug or opiate. You know what it's like when you're trying to have a conversation with a drunk person. It's really impossible. And they make promises they don't keep. They think they can do things they can't do. One minute they want to start a fight. The next minute they say they love you, they're your best friend. What's even more amazing is that our unconscious, believe it or not, selects portions of the input that is pouring in through all our senses and selects what it thinks is most important for us. So we don't even get to pick what we think is most important to focus on. And to top it off, we don't even get to make the decision. Double-blind scientific studies with CAT scans have shown that the unconscious makes the decision a good 10 seconds before the conscious mind believes it makes the decision. It's all smoke and mirrors. don't you think you had better get in touch with this unconscious mind? It's ruling your life completely, or 95% of it. It's time to reach a state of communication, compromise, and balance with your unconscious. Let's just take politics for a moment, a field that makes for extremely uncomfortable dinner conversations and flame wars on the internet because it stirs up so much intense emotion. Well, I'm going to say some things now that are extremely controversial. I'm going to play some mind games with you, and which may sound very confusing, but it will all make sense as you continue listening to this program. After I say these controversial things, I will tell you information that will help you to understand why I am speaking in what may seem to you, or at least to some of you, to be a crazy way of talking. You may be tempted to fast forward to the second part of this video, but if you do, you will lose invaluable groundwork for the techniques I am going to teach you. You may feel, as I did at one time, that you are a staunch Democrat. You may reel at the latest example of Bible-thumping, flag-draping appeals to family values, which are the hallmarks of the Republican system of chicanery. But really, there's no difference between Democrat or Republican. They just want us warring among ourselves so we don't pay attention to how we're being screwed by the government, as they bit by bit remove every last vestige of your God-given rights as an American citizen. You may be shocked that yet again the Republicans are taking us into another war, not for their stated reasons of helping the world find the value of the democratic system of government, but to insert into the given country their system of corporations designed to make money off the dead bodies of young American boys and girls who are giving up their lives for our country. And you may have heard that now the Democrats are talking about going back into Iraq again for the 4th time. And you may feel and believe any of this with every bone in your body. Well, with every bone in that 5% of the conscious mind that you have at your disposal. Only God knows, or maybe in reality you don't believe in God, what the other 95% of you is thinking. This 95% is often called the shadow, the part of ourselves that is completely hidden from our conscious everyday awareness. Maybe you hate your father, but maybe that thought is just too much for you to deal with, so you hide your thought in the unconscious, in what's called the shadow. Perhaps that 95% of you feels that America should take over the world. And if you could only get to know that 95% of yourself, you would be amazed that it is more violent than the Nazi stormtroopers or the Zionists who are completely out of control and have been for decades. Or perhaps you may feel such solidarity with the rest of the Islamic oil nations who, with one stroke of their pen on one check, could easily provide a homeland and protection for all Palestinians. Let's take the case of a devout Arab Muslim from a rich Arab oil country. But you are unaware that your unconscious would rather keep up the world's hatred for Israel than you would like to stop innocent Palestinian children from being murdered, because in your political agenda, it is better to have headlines that make the Jewish people look bad. Secretly, your shadow hates all Jews, so you are not going to lift up your pen and checkbook and spend even a tiny bit of your profits from your oil today to solve the Palestinian problem, as long as you can keep the world hating Jews. And this fits in perfectly with those people whose shadows hate the Zionists and send in boatloads of humanitarian aid. But the Zionists still murder the peaceful people who are just trying to bring in food and medicine to the Palestinians. So maybe today is not the right day to take out a full-page ad asking the Muslim oil nations why they haven't done a thing to help support the Palestinians, why they haven't worked out a deal with another Islamic nation in the area to find a homeland for the Palestinians. I mean, the world found a homeland for the Jews. Why can't the world find a homeland for the Palestinians? Especially when some of the wealthiest people on earth are Muslims. I was subjected to a huge amount of hatred when I suggested that the wealthy Arab oil nations just might consider contributing a tiny bit of their enormous wealth to build a homeland for the Palestinians. But again, let's not talk about that. Maybe our unconscious thinks it's better to write on Facebook about all the evil, wealthy Jewish people and all the terrible things they do with their money, because this is a good way to hide your hatred of the Jews, rather than talk about all the money in Saudi Arabia and the whole smorgasbord of super wealthy Arab oil countries. It's better to talk about the rich Jews, since that 95% of the part of yourself that you have no idea about hates Jews. Our perceptual limitations mean that a lot of what goes on isn't consciously available to us. Again, our perceptual limitations mean that a lot of what goes on is not consciously available to us. We have heard about the wall in Israel, at least most of you have. Well, there's a wall inside our brains. This wall blocks out most of the information about what is going on around us, and we simply do not have any access to any information about what is happening. Talk about censorship and mind control. We do it to ourselves. We don't allow ourselves access to 95% of what is happening around us. Now, I know I may be freaking you out, so much so that you may be about to turn off this video. This information is just too damn scary to deal with. But don't worry, I'm here to save the day. That's why I've made this new episode of The Place Inside. As many of you know, I have dedicated a lot of my magical meditations and work to developing visualization systems that work. This is called Imagistic magic. My first book, Beyond Duality, The Art of Transcendence, published by New Falcon, revealed a completely new system of imagistic magic based on the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Today, I am announcing another breakthrough in creative visualization, or if you prefer, you may call it imagistic magic. Why would the world ever need another 30 seconds of information about visualization when we are truly glutted with this information every day? Honestly, not a day passes that I don't receive some email spam about variations on the following theme. Here is the information that the movie The Secret left out, or something along those lines. Well, the reason you should continue listening is because I am not going to get you all enthused and then tell you to send me $47.77 and I will send you 8 CDs with my complete new system on them. In fact, I'm not going to ask you to send me any money. Well, I will ask you to buy my book, but that's about it. I probably can do it in one paragraph, which I'm going to do. This is it. All visualization techniques tell you to imagine that you have your goal in as much detail as possible. The best systems will tell you to engage all your senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. So if you want a new car, for example, you're going to smell that new car smell. You're going to feel the nice vibration of your great new engine. You're going to hear the engine rev up. You're going to see the instrument panel and the color of the car and the color of the wheels and so forth. This goes with all the goals you supposedly are going to have when you are doing your visualization. But they forget one thing, and it's huge. They forget that you must visualize your excitement that you finally have your goal. Sounds too simple, doesn't it? Sounds too stupid? What they do is kind of wrong. They tell you not to visualize for things like money. They say you must have a quote-unquote purpose for the money. Fuck that. See yourself getting an envelope in the mail, and when you open it up, it says whatever turns you on. What? Would you freak out if your girlfriend or mom or brother or somebody just walked into the house and said, "Oh, I just found this in the mailbox and it's addressed to you," and you opened it, and when you opened the envelope, you saw a check made out to your name in the amount of $150 million US? Or maybe, let's use an example from everyday life. You've got to pay the rent, the bills, the car payment, the car insurance, a down payment on the engagement ring for your woman. So what about $100,000 US? I mean, I would not think I was the wealthiest man in the world if I got a check like that, but I would feel so good. Look, the trick is to visualize yourself having something you have always wanted. You have to be specific here. I'm not saying visualize yourself having sex with a famous movie actress, but you must have had a love of your life, right? What if she called you up? I don't know the particular circumstances of your breakup, but what if she messaged you and texted you and said, "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm stupid for ever letting you go. Give me one night to prove it." Start visualizing yourself kissing, making out with all your absolute best girlfriends that you ever had. I bet you any amount of money that you will be able to remember after 1 or 2 seconds what it was like to kiss them. Remember it and start doing it. The visualization, make out with them, and then pick the absolute best. You must have had 2 or 3 absolute best girlfriends, and you women must have had 2 or 3 absolute best boyfriends. Visualize yourself making out with them and then see them smiling and enjoying it. They are telling you they love you. You are telling them the things that you've always wanted to say to them. I don't want you to just feel good. Feel like you just had sex with a gorgeous woman. I want you to have a smile on your face a mile wide, like you just had sex with the woman of your dreams. I don't want you to just feel like you have a lot of money in the bank. I want you to think of something that'll make you feel unstoppable. I mean, I know all of us guys have what they call approach anxiety. For those of you who don't know what this means, it means the fear that we get when we're thinking about going up to a pretty or beautiful woman and talking to her, maybe asking her to dance, maybe just striking up a conversation. We all get nervous. But what if you had a certain sum of money in the bank? You know, you could go up to just about any woman and say hello because you got the world around your finger. The woman would have to be the most stupid woman in the world to turn you down. Of course, you never tell her how much money you have, but you've got this attitude going. You know what I mean. Maybe you're even smiling that smile right now. That smile that says when you walk into a place, anywhere, maybe a restaurant, and you see a pretty girl, and you don't feel a second's hesitation about going up to her and saying hello because you got all that money in the world. You got all the money in the world. It doesn't matter if she wants you. It's just a matter of a few hours or maybe a few days or maybe a little more, but you don't care. You'll find the right woman. You're going to Amsterdam or Vienna or Sicily or Göbekli Tepe, whatever turns you on. And you are so excited. And if she can catch your vibe and know you're a guy who's going places, then maybe she's smart enough to talk with you. If not, oh well. I want visualizations that produce smiles like you can't wipe them off your faces. The car that will make your neighbors freak out when they see it. Remember, the unconscious is like a baby. You know how babies love those things they hang over the bassinet with all the colorful plastic things that baby can play with, put in its mouth and explore and play with its toes? That's just like your unconscious. Your unconscious is never going to be convinced by your most impressive logical speech to it. It will completely ignore you, just as if you tried to give the same speech to an infant. But bring something that's shiny or colorful or tastes good and so on, and then you've got the baby's interest. So, too, you must stimulate your unconscious by stimulating your senses. Why do you think the great spiritual masters like Gurdjieff and Crowley spent a fortune decorating their living rooms with exotic foreign carpets, unusual lamps, incenses, light and shadow, beautiful pillows, luxurious couches like something out of 1001 Arabian Nights? They did it to profoundly affect the unconscious minds of the students that came to them. This is the visualization I want you to have. It is a visualization that is so real, so freaking fucking totally real that you cannot stop smiling. The mind does not know the difference between imagined reality and so-called quote-unquote real reality. So if you walk around really believing that you have $150 million, you'll be unstoppable in your personal relationship. The point isn't the money. I wish we didn't have to have money, but the point is amping you up to such a degree that internally you feel unstoppable. And in our society, money empowers people. We've talked about how they've told us to visualize using all 5 senses. I myself have taught this and have told you this in past episodes of The Place Inside, and it is good advice. But we know that there are more than 5 senses. For example, don't just visualize a beautiful woman. Don't just visualize exactly the type of woman you like. No, this is not going to work at all. Visualize her hugging you. Visualize you smelling her hair. Feel her hugging you. Smell her hair. Visualize your first kiss. Have the sensation. Know what it feels like to be tongue kissing her. What does her tongue feel like in your mouth and your tongue in her mouth? Visualize her lips, her first smile. Look at her teeth, the way she's kind of nervous but excited about you. Then take it further. Feel her really hugging you hard. Her arms are around you and she's squeezing you and she's whispering something in your ear, very erotic, and she's suggesting something very wild. What is it? You can hear her. You take her hand, you can feel her skin. You look at her nails, you see the colors she painted her nails. You touch her nails. You can feel maybe it's a little cold because she's a little nervous about what she just said to you. Or maybe her hand is sweating a little bit. She's biting her lip, you can see it. But you squeeze her hand back and she squeezes your hand. And you kiss again and you wink at her. And you tell her, yeah, let's meet at this hotel, the front lobby at 7:30. And you tell her, I want you to be wearing your sexiest dress. And I don't want you to have underwear on. And then you go, you buy her flowers. Let's smell those flowers now. Okay, you really smell those flowers. You get that little card that goes with the flowers. And you hold the card in your hand. And you see your hand writing something to her about how you cannot believe she is in your life and she has made you the happiest man on earth. You're writing that right now. See your hand with the pen in it writing, you have made me the happiest man on earth. And she better get ready because you are going to fuck her like she's never been fucked before tonight. If you want a relationship, you must visualize the most real relationship imaginable. You want to push the envelope as far as you can, to the point that perhaps someone would have you committed. In other words, I don't want you committed. However, when you are alone, I want you to have conversations with your visualized partner. I want you to have sex with her. I want you to eat with her. Set a place at the table for her. I want you to discuss various subjects. Of course, don't be stupid. Make sure nobody can hear you. But do this. Have an argument. See how she reacts when you have an argument. See how you react when you have an argument. Now, years ago, before the New Age began, there was a whole group of authors who had a very good idea about the concepts taught in The Secret and other books. but they talked about something else that no one talks about today, except one woman that I know, and that is time. They talked about mind control. All their systems started out with this first exercise. It was an exercise in what they called mentalism. Find a clock with a second hand. You know, the one that goes around ticking off the seconds. And watch it go around the clock for 1 minute. Then you gradually increase this. The goal and point is to keep your mind focused on something without wavering for at least 5 minutes. 10 would even be better. Now, I want you to start visualizing yourself having the greatest date of your life with this woman for 1 minute. You heard me right. 1 minute. I dare you to do it. I dare you. Because for 99% of you, you can't. That's where the old mind control training comes in. That's where the mentalism training comes in. Go back and practice with the clock or watch. Keep practicing until you can keep an absolutely uninterrupted 60 seconds of imagining all your feelings being with the woman of your dreams. I know that they even have digital stopwatches now and stop clocks now, so that's okay as long as you see the numbers being counted off for the seconds. I want to hear you say to her, I cannot believe this. I never believed that such a lovely and beautiful woman would be so interested in me. Here is something that is going to change your entire approach to imagistic magic. To put it very generally, this is the life-changing information. If you want some special object, thing, or possession to be yours, don't spend your time imagining a 1967 mint condition Corvette, or a special Les Paul guitar, or a set of oil paints and a special canvas and a beautiful grand piano, so on and so forth. But instead, imagine how having them would make you feel right now. This is all the difference in the world. If you want to find your soulmate, don't spend all your time picturing a real sexy woman with all the qualities you want. Charming, with important people, someone with a seductive foreign accent. Leave all that stuff alone. Ignore it. That's the old way of doing visualization, and it doesn't work. I'm telling you now. Instead, start to focus on how would you feel if you were with her. Wouldn't you just go wild inside? Wouldn't you feel so incredibly happy? Wouldn't you feel butterflies inside of you? Wouldn't you be saying something to her like, I'm completely blown away that you're finally here, baby. I've dreamed of a woman like you all my life, and now you're here in my arms. I love you, honey. In other words, get your neurotransmitters pumping out those powerful hormones. Yes, to imagine a woman in all her detail, the smell of her hair, how her tongue feels when she's kissing you, and so forth, is definitely a step up from just imagining a woman who looks pretty. But it is absolutely nothing compared to how you are going to feel when she's sitting next to you at some concert and she's sticking her tongue in your ear and you're saying to yourself, I feel like I'm a teenager again. I'm so in love. This woman is actually sitting next to me and is wildly in love with me. That's the kind of visualization you're going to do. So again, don't visualize what you want. Want is the future. Only the now exists. Visualize being with her now. Visualize how you feel now having what you want. You feel wonderful. You are happier than you have ever been in your entire life. You are feeling feelings in your body that you didn't even know you had. You're not just feeling happy or glad or good. You're feeling joyful, fulfilled, ecstatic, and that a miracle is happening right at this very moment. You will want to use affirmations like, finally my dreams come true, and you're actually here. It's blowing my mind that all this cash is flowing in. I have been waiting for this all my life, and my heart is filled with joy. Those are just some of the kind of affirmations I want you to do. But more important than affirmations or visualizations is the feeling. You want to, for as long as possible, remember that clock, just sit or lay down, whatever, and have the feeling that your greatest dream has just come true. All you've ever wanted is yours. Don't allow any thoughts like, that's just stupid fantasy, to enter your thoughts. Instead of going for a cheap hamburger, go for the best New York steak you can find. If you're a vegetarian, use a similar analogy, just using the foods you're allowed to eat. Among chefs, they have what they call, quote, comfort food, unquote. This is just another way of saying food that's filling and delicious. Because these fancy chefs now, they prefer to make food that fills up maybe 1/20th of the size of your plate. You know what I'm talking about. You get this gigantic plate in these fancy restaurants, and you need a microscope to see the food. It doesn't even look like food with all the weird stuff they put on it. And it's some kind of weird kind of flavor fantasy that these chefs enjoy. You can look for a woman like this too. Someone who wears the latest fashions, who knows exactly how to talk properly, what to talk about, how to appear down to earth, when really they hate those kind of people who love the earth and so on. So you can go for this kind of woman, this superficial woman, or you can go for a woman that is a comfort woman, a woman that will make you feel like $1 billion. Remember, our goal is to be authentic, integral, and coherent. Authentic means genuine, original, not false or copied. Authenticity is the degree to which one is true to one's own personality, spirit, or character despite external pressures. Integral means possessing everything essential, entire, a complete unit, a whole. Coherent means sticking together, capable of logical and consistent speech, thought, and so forth. It also means consistent, having a natural agreement of parts, harmonious. To be authentic, integral, and coherent is worth more than all the gold and diamonds in the world. We will resume contact soon.